welcome back to MTD 12 horsepower turbo. Today we are going to be looking at the 2003 Ford Ranger that we are going to be swapping the diesel motor into. What we're going to mainly focus on doing today is pulling the transmission and the engine out of the truck, and I'm briefly going to show you what I've disconnected under the hood, and I'm going to crawl underneath once I get the truck jacked up with the tractor, and I'm going to show you what has to be unbolted and disconnected from under there in order to get your transmission to be separated from your motor. And from there we'll continue on and see if we can get them tore out. So briefly, what I've done under the hood here is you're going to start by disconnecting everything that you can get your hands on. So the intake's got to go, the AC, if you have AC, that's got to go, the rad's got to go, you got to get the coolant lines all disconnected from that. There's going to be a power steering line, which I haven't taken off yet, but it's right there, and it goes up in behind, right down in there. You can see that. That there's got to come off. What else? There's another line there on the power steering that's got to go. You've got fuel lines that got to go. This is an 03, so this here is where the fuel comes in and connects to the front of the fuel rails. If you're doing this on an 08 or something newer than 04 or 5, I think, the fuel rails actually connect in the back of the motor. Similar setup, but in the back. You're gonna have to disconnect all the wiring, obviously. There's a master plug here that you can take off and disconnect the wiring harness on the motor. There's going to be, what else is there? There's, well, as far as bolts that are holding it, there's 2 down there, 2 on the other side there. Well, vacuum lines, yeah. You gotta take the brake booster off. This is pretty much everything you can see. There's some, yeah, you got to disconnect the harness there with the ECU on it as well. I believe that connects right down around and it spreads out around the motor, so you're going to have to disconnect that for now. And obviously, when you put the TDI motor in, we're going to be using this harness and a good majority of pieces off of it to keep everything functional. So once you get the motor out, then I'm going to pull the harness all off the motor itself, and I'll have it laying out on the ground there, and I'll be able to go from there, use what I need. So there's that, and there's some stuff underneath that we're gonna have to look at as far as disconnecting on these. What you gotta do is you gotta disconnect the motor from the transmission, and then you can pull the transmission out. Pull the motor out. You can't do it all in one shot unless you remove this whole front piece, and you can't do that on these because it's welded. There are 10 bolts to hold the transmission to the truck. You can access 8 of them from down below, but the other 2 you must go inside of your truck and go where the standard shift would be, and you can pull that off, and there's a metal panel in there that you unbolt. Once you've unbolted that, you can get in there with your swivel and extension and get at the top 2 transmission bolts. Then you can remove the transmission. We have oil lines that we have to remove here. The exhaust has to come off, every bit of it, because that'll get touched up on you when you're trying to pull it out. And then once you do that, then you have to unbolt this here across. Remember, there's 2 bolts there, 2 there, and then there's 1 through the center right there, and the same here, and then you got these 2 here, and then that'll pull right down. Once you get that, this here is a FX4, so it's a little different. We got this here other belly pan, that's gonna have to come off so that I can get at everything. It's gotta come out. I think there's 4 bolts on it. Drive shaft's gotta come off. So we're gonna pull the drive shafts off, and yeah, and then we'll once we get that, then you can drop the transmission right down on the ground and then pull the motor out, and that's about the best way to do that. So everything's gonna be a nightmare for you, I guarantee it. It's gonna be stuck, it's gonna be seized, it's gonna fight you right to all the way. So one other thing to note, this here shift motor is actually on a different harness than the motor harness, so you got to unplug that, as well as all the connectors on the automatic transmission that plug into it, and the shifting linkage as well. So we're working with this 2003 Ford Ranger FX4. This came factory with 410 gears, beefier suspension, black interior, white dash, matching seats, power windows and locks, slider window in it. It was a nice truck in its day. I figured it would be a good truck to bring back to life. Overall, it needs a little bit of body work. It needs some rust fixed in a few places, some dents and dings pulled out, new tailgate likely. It needs a set of wheels, and this is the project truck, so stay tuned. Let's see if we can get this transmission pulled. Okay, so it's currently 5:30. I started this at about 3:34, so like 2 hours roughly. And you can have this whole, you can have the motor, transmission, and everything out of the truck. So, flip you around. One thing I didn't mention, there's going to be 2 bolts on the top of the transmission, and you can actually get at them from right here. The transmission came out first, like I was saying, and it went pretty smoothly for the most part. There's the transmission there. The transfer case is going to be coming off of it, and I'm going to be keeping that. But the transmission itself, I'm going to put up for sale, a couple $100 or something. It was good, shifted good, worked fine, but we're not putting an automatic in it. We're going to run a manual, so. Then I continued on. It got dark, but I continued on anyway and finished pulling the motor out. So it's sitting right there. Nothing's connected anymore. I'm going to take it around to the shed, or to the barn probably, and I'm going to dismantle it from there. Basically, I just got to get the wiring harness off of it. Other than that, it can stay. It's a good motor as well. It ran fine. So that's it for me for today on the teardown. And put the old tractor away and go grab something to eat, and this is it for me. Thanks for watching, folks.